I'm not crying. I'm not crying.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well. Oh my word, have you seen the goodbye video message from Thiago Silva to Chelsea fans? If that doesn't pull at your heartstrings as a Chelsea fan, nothing will. We're going to reflect on that a little bit in today's video, speak about how he says he'd like to come back. I think most of us would like him to come back in some capacity. We'll get into that. And I also want to talk about this Chelsea squad moving forward. Of course, Thiago Silva, you know, the elder statesman of the Chelsea squad, leaving. We've learned quite a lot about what we have and we don't have, and of course, players being injured and maybe needing to bring players in. I want to go through and tell you who I think, or what players I think we need to buy to be a great team. And we're not that far off, really. So strap yourselves in. Thank you for joining me. If you do like the content, you can let me know simply by dropping a like. It takes a millisecond of your life and it gives me the warm fuzzies like I'm watching a Thiago Silva goodbye video. So thank you for liking and subscribing. And yeah, let's get into it. So if you haven't watched it yet, go watch the goodbye message from Thiago Silva to the Chelsea fans. Hella emotional. He's an emotional guy, of course. He completely invested into Chelsea Football Club. And not just him, of course his wife, Belle Silva, both his sons play for Chelsea. They support them all the time. They go to, the academy games, the women's games. You'll see Belle Silva going to, Chelsea home and away, supporting her husband. It's just such a lovely story. He does genuinely love Chelsea. He reacts off how the fans responded to him. He says in the video, even when he signed, he could feel like the fans accepted the signing. This 1 year signing of a 35-year-old guy. And yes, I'm going to talk about my original stance on Thiago Silva in just a moment. And of course, when fans were started to being let back into stadiums, he felt this emotional bond with the Chelsea fans. There's 2 or 3 songs about him. He won the Champions League, he won the Club World Cup, Super Cup, he scored a few goals. But most of all, he just cared. He just, you could see that he was all in. We joke sometimes about how, well, it's not joking, it's true, how football fans love a trier. As long as you keep grafting, your Timo Werner kind of players, do you know what I mean? And kind of like Nico Jackson and stuff, players that just keep making the runs, keep trying. Your Conor Gallagher's. He is that, but obviously as a centre-back, it's less just erratic cardio, it's more just he gives everything, he buys in completely, and he's so emotionally invested into Chelsea, and it's evident in how he's always talked about our club, and seeing such an emotional goodbye video, it was just really lovely to see. And yeah, it's quite exciting, the idea that he could come back in some capacity. We've spoken about that here on the channel, how I'd like him to come back as a coach. Obviously now he'd have to learn fluent English. I've joked before about how he's multilingual, but by the time he got to Chelsea, he was my age, so he was probably I'm not learning English. I think he speaks Portuguese, Spanish, Italian and French all fluently, so I think English was just one that he was just look, I'll learn the basics. I'm in my mid-30s, I'm maybe only going to be at Chelsea for, a year. Of course, it ended up being 4 years, but he didn't know that at the beginning, and he just learned the basics of communication. And of course, Chelsea being a multicultural club, there's loads of different languages spoken anyway, so he could communicate with most of the boys there. But yeah, I'd love him to come back and be a coach, learn English fluently, become, or maybe a scout or something. Of course, both his sons still play for Chelsea, and it sounds like they're going to keep playing for Chelsea. I hope they stay in England. I mean, there's obviously links with him going back to Brazil and playing there for one more season. It's not confirmed that he's retiring as a player, so we'll see what happens there, but I'd love for him to just hang around and, because it's just, we've cut off so much of the heart of Chelsea recently. Keeping Thiago Silva around would be a positive, I think. But yeah, I do want to mention as well my original position on Thiago Silva, because, I've got to be real and authentic here. I was as massively concerned about the idea of signing Thiago Silva. Of course, I knew him as a legend. He won the Scudetto with Milan. He won thousands of titles with PSG and League. I think did he win a Copa America or an Olympics or something with Brazil? He's a Brazil legend as well. This guy exudes class. He's a strong defender, but really classy. And I knew that, amazing player. And I said at the time, this guy's a legend, but he's the wrong side of 35 and he's been playing in the French league for the last 8 years or whatever. Being slam dunked into the Premier League side, is this the right thing to do? Speaking of slam dunked, I wanted to sign Lewis Dunk, and actually in hindsight, that aged pretty well. You know, England international he became. Like, he's a good centre-back himself. Wouldn't want him now. We have to look to the future, cause even though it's Dunksla in his 30s now. But I was like, Thiago Silva? I understand how I came to that idea, but the truth is I've never been so happy to be so wrong about a signing, and what a signing Thiago Silva was. Free transfer, signed for 12 months, stayed for 4 years. Proper Chelsea. So obrigado, Thiago. I hope to see you back at Chelsea at some point. And let's move on and get to the second part of today's video. Right, so the dysfunctional Blues still sort of languishing and kind of mid-table in the Premier League. I mean, when it is mid-table, there's no escaping it. And over time, we've been impressed with a few new players. Malo Gusto's been impressive. Cole Palmer's been impressive. Conor Gallagher's played generally very well under Mauricio Pochettino. You know, Caicedo is very recently coming into his own. I mean, a couple of really good performances recently. He could end the season on a massive high. Despite people being split on him, Nico Jackson will end the season with pretty good numbers and a good amount of minutes played and, strong availability. And Noni Madueke shown that he could be a useful winger as well. Some players are good, some this, that and the other, But Chelsea are far off it. So what I want to do is I want to go through the lines of, defence, midfield, attack and goalkeeper. And I'm going to tell you what I think we still need. And of course, we'll talk about it along the way, but the injuries make it such a difficult task, but stick with me. So let's start on goalkeeper, and I'm very much decided Chelsea need to buy a starting goalkeeper. Yes, Georgi Petrovic has been good since he sort of come in for Rob Sanchez when Sanchez got injured and kind of kept his place. He looked more calm and better than Sanchez. Many of you will still believe in Petrovic. I kind of do to a degree. He's a young goalkeeper. I think he should be our second choice goalkeeper. I don't think Rob Sanchez, I think he should be sold. I think we keep Bettinelli, just keep re-signing Bettinelli as the third choice goalkeeper. I think he's happy to live in Cobham. He's still like 30, he's still quite young. Of course, third choice goalkeepers sometimes are like 38. So yeah, Bettinelli, everyone likes him. He gets along with everyone. He should remain third choice. I think Petrovic should be second choice. Get chances in the cup, keeps developing. If he doesn't become a first choice at Chelsea, we can sell him in a year or two if he wants to, leave. But I do genuinely think authority, character starts at the back. You need a big goalkeeper. I recently spoke about Emi Martinez being that for Villa before we played them, and we've had that before with Petr Cech and even Courtois to a degree. Courtois was his character wasn't my favourite as a goalkeeper, but he was a big character, and he was obviously amazing, and only so recently can be regarded as the best goalkeeper in the world. He is formed for Real Madrid, so we need a proper goalkeeper, like a proper good goalkeeper, not a $14 million MLS keeper that's somehow become first choice. I know we want to find good value, these owners and sporting directors, but I feel like we need a better goalkeeper. Let me know what you think about the goalkeeper. Let's move on to the defence. Now this is super hard because all our defenders are out injured. Of course, the aforementioned Thiago Silva is leaving. You guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Monaco boys and Badiashile and Disasi, though they linked up for what could have been a winner against the aforementioned Aston Villa. Of course, that goal was ruled out. I've always made my position clear. I think the long-term planning, we should have a back four, so not a back three, of Levi Colwill on the left, a left footer, young, very high ceiling. Remember, Liverpool were prepared to throw the bag at Levi Colwill. Like, he's a very high potential centre half. And you guys know me as well. I'm the biggest fan of Wesley Fofana. Of course, similar age, 23 years old on the right-hand side, right-footed, an incredibly technical and just excellent centre-back that can advance forward and actually help how you attack as well. So I think they should be the starting centre-backs for Chelsea moving forwards. And then you could say, right, in rotation, if the French centre-backs are going to stay, they could be the backups. And even though I'd probably prefer to sell one of them and, keep Trevoh Chalobah, but it looked like, it's a sad thing really, because Chalobah looks like he will be sold probably for pure profit. Many of you guys won't agree with that because he's been a better performer of late. But if we're talking about the players that are on the roster, I think Colwill and Fofana could be absolutely amazing, and they're still so young. I know we've been leaking goals like mad under Pochettino, but remember that defence he had with the Belgians, Alderweireld and Vertonghen? That was amazing. I just really hope he could do something like that with Colwill and Fofana long term, and then we don't have to throw a massive amount of money at centre half. We'll see. We'll probably end up buying one, I think, anyway. Maybe we just don't have the profiles. I think when we get better as a team, we'll defend better. But for me, those two young centre-backs should be the starters. So I wouldn't throw the bag at a centre-half personally, but I can understand why Chelsea might want to buy one, to replace Thiago Silva. We'll see what happens there. Let me know what you think about the centre-backs. Now, full-backs is super easy on the right. Don't buy a right-back. We've got Reece James, the club captain, who will eventually come back, who is potentially the best right-back in the world. And then Malo Gusto, who's an amazing right-back. Done. Now, left-back is tricky because we've got Cucurella and Ben Chilwell, who both have their positives and negatives of late. I've always been a massive fan of Ben Chilwell. Right before we signed him as well, if you remember here on the channel, I don't want to pat my own back here, but I was like, I don't want to sign Telles or Tagliafico, whichever one wanted to sign. I wanted to sign Ben Chilwell. We got Ben Chilwell, I couldn't believe my luck. He went on to win the Champions League as an amazing left wing back under Lampard, but Thomas Tuchel, and he was incredible, Ben Chilwell. The amount of goal involvements he would get with those inverted runs at wing back. But he's conventionally a left back, so he should be a very good left back. He has been poor lately. I wonder if that's down to the rest of the team being a bit poor as well. I generally think, we're going to keep him. He's the vice captain of the club. I do wonder about Cucurella. A lot of people prefer Cucurella to Ben Chilwell. He's much less attacking, of course. He's more defensive, but we've been shipping loads of goals recently. I've kind of Cucurella's grown on me because he's I said I like a trier. He certainly is a trier, and he does concentrate. I know we had that silly own goal the other day, but I just feel like he's a mistake. He costs too much money, I think, and we are looking at a left back. I think we're going to try and emulate what we did with Malo Gusto to that Reece James on that side. We're going to try and do another one to probably the Ben Chilwell. I wonder if we will try and sell Cucurella. Or, interesting conversation, I mean, it only was a sort of partial task, but when he was inverting to the midfield against Aston Villa, he looked pretty good. So who knows, maybe Marc Cucurella is a harrying and pressing midfielder, and we just utilise him as this versatile player that can play left centre-back in a free, left back, left wing-back, inverted midfielder, and because he's so versatile, we keep him in the squad. Right, midfield is going to be a tough one. Of course, we're not selling Moises Caicedo. It's going to be really, really integral to us moving forwards. And we're not going to sell Enzo Fernandez. He's been not playing well for the most part of this season, probably because of his hernia abdominal issue that he's just had surgery on. So, and Enzo is a great player of a high ceiling. It's just finding a way for making it work for him. So they're two high-profile midfielders. We're not going to sell £58 million Romeo Lavia, who we haven't even seen play football yet we have for 30 minutes maybe, I think it is, in the Premier League. So those guys are there. Conor Gallagher is a massive one, of course. What's going to happen? Is he going to be sold in the summer? Even though he'll only have 12 months left on his deal, his performances have been so good this season in many, many ways that he will still command a lot of money. England international always gets called up. He's always available. He's works very hard. He's got free lungs somehow. He's got a goal in him. He's got an assist in him. And he fights, and he's good. He's good when you put him up against the media to talk to the media. He represents the club he's playing for well. That's all very impressive, especially when he's got the captain's armband on all the time. A Tottenham will pay £50 million for him, pure profit on the books. Now that will make many of you sick, especially because he's been playing well recently, and then just giving him to Tottenham. But you can see why an Ange Postecoglou would really, really like him. He wants to play for Chelsea though, Conor Gallagher. I'm going to reiterate what I said recently. Even if in the future he's not a starter in a particular system, I just don't want to lose him. I'd always want him as a squad player, a player that will always, be available and try hard for Chelsea and understand the values of Chelsea, and in many instances start games as well. So, but he may just get better and better and better and become a starter. I don't want to lose him, but we'll see what happens there. I do wonder if we will, or what will happen with Leslie Ugochukwu and Andre Santos. Santos has been very, very impressive for Strasbourg, the young Brazilian midfielder that we've got. I wonder if he comes back and we just utilise him. I don't think Cesare Casadei, I think he'll probably go on another loan. Also, the thing is with Casadei, he's more attacking. He's not like a functional midfielder like a Lavia or a Caicedo. Do you know what I mean? He's more attacking. He's closer to, Akani Chukwuemeka, who I think is excellent. And I think Chukwuemeka is more appropriate for us than Cesare Casadei. So I don't necessarily think we'll buy a midfielder. I think we'll maybe make sure like a Santos stays around in the squad moving forwards. So let's talk like attacking midfielders, as in like not the striker. We've got lots, of course. We've got loads and loads of right wingers. We said recently that we've got Cole Palmer, Madueke, and then we've got players coming through like Amari Hutchinson, Angelo at Strasbourg as well. He's really exciting. So we are fine for the right wing option. The number 10, if we are to keep playing this 4-2-3-1, this sort of attacking central midfielder, we're good. This could be a Mudryk, we'll talk about him more in a moment, but it also could be, like I said, a Carney, a Christopher Nkunku, a Cole Palmer, maybe like, Gallagher continues to play in that role. I don't think we need that central player there. I think we need a left winger. So I do think we're, obviously we've been linked with the Athletic Bilbao winger, Nico Williams, very, very exciting young player as well, fits the bill for this Chelsea project, whether we could convince him to come to Chelsea or not. I'm not sure. He's also on high wages, which doesn't suit our current model. But I would love him to come, basically, as a proper left winger. I think Sterling's time at Chelsea has been a failure, with like a few bright spots, and I don't put it on him really. I feel like he has tried. I feel like he's done whatever he can to get in the best physical shape. He's always available. He's professional. Apparently around the training ground, he's very, very good. But it was an incorrect signing. It was a failure. It was a signing that was requested by Thomas Tuchel. Bowley and Clearlake had just arrived at Chelsea, and they were like, still had a really high value with Tuchel. They were like, okay, Tuchel's good. He recently won the Champions League. Let's give him what he wants. And obviously what he wanted was Aubameyang, Sterling, Cucurella, Koulibaly, and all those signings. It turned out to be a big waste of money that financially hindered us big time. I like Raheem Sterling. Of course, I'm an England fan as well. He's played great for England. It's been a failure, ultimately, you'd have to say, even with moments of class. So if we can alleviate ourselves of him, which I'm not sure we'll be able to, I'd love to do that. But it's going to be tricky. It's going to be like PSG or Saudi, which I'm sure he's not going to want to do either. Be very keen to find out how that goes, though, and see what happens. Maybe the fact how Sterling no longer is an England international, if it's clear to him that his England career is over, he might be more inclined to go to Saudi. Because there's an element of going to Saudi, taking the bag, and then your international career ending. But if it's already ended, maybe that's a little bit more like incentive to just go and do it. We'll see what happens. Of course, it's his choice. Mudryk is a massive talking point. I said yesterday, I think it also was a mistake signing Mudryk. Not as big as Sterling, and of course there's scope for Mudryk to becoming good and becoming amazing, and he's got all the raw materials to be like uniquely good and really, really effective with such high value on the pitch. But he's just so far off it, and he needs like a proper like intensive one-to-one course on how to like play top-level Premier League football, which I don't think we can afford to do while we're rebuilding the whole of the squad. Maybe I better. There's been talks of could he go on loan somewhere? Maybe, and maybe that's a solution. I'd have a starting left winger as a new player entirely, like a Nico Williams. So far, starting left winger, goalkeeper, and I'm going to end on striker and say we are going to need a striker. So let's talk about that a little bit. Now this is really interesting actually, because there is obviously an instance where Chelsea do not buy a new left winger, maybe still get rid of Sterling, and maybe just play Nico Jackson down the left. Remember, he was a winger at Villarreal. He's only recently played as a striker, and he plays really well as a left winger. I think there's a lot of value to have Nicolas Jackson in your starting lineup. He makes runs, he does combine, he frustrates a lot, but it's there. Like Gary Neville recently was quoted saying, it's an unpopular opinion, but I really like Nicolas Jackson. I think he's got a lot to give. He does, man. He does. I know he frustrates us a lot because he's missed a lot of high-profile chances, and that will be the headlines. And when you've got headlines like that, it's very difficult to actually look closely at all the stuff in between that he does really, really well. And again, he's just always available, which is worth its weight in gold, and just always is keen to keep making the runs and iron out mistakes. Like the 2 goals that he nearly had against Villa, of course, the slight offside, which was a great run and finish. And of course, the great header that hit the post. Nearly moments, incremental, of course, and then those 2 goals win us that game. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want him to go. I want him to stay and get better, and I think he'll prove to be an excellent value signing, whether that's as a second choice striker up top, or indeed like as a rotational attacker that plays on the left wing sometimes. Which of course leaves us with striker, and yeah, I think we need a striker. I just think we need a big boy striker. In the same way, I think we categorically need a big boy goalkeeper, we need a big boy striker. In fact, if you just said to me, sign 2 players, I'd go goalkeeper, striker. I know the club wants to buy a left back and a centre back and but I'd just go top, bottom, mate. A big character at the bottom that can command his centre backs and just be like, do as I say, stand there and make saves and and be a big character, a confident character. And the same up top. Give me a Czech and a Drogba. Do you know what I mean? It's not so much to ask. Or a Diego Costa and a Courtois. We need that calibre of top and bottom to really be good. You just have to, bro. I know these days, everyone's wondering if Man City play better without Haaland because they score more goals in games without Haaland. And, Arsenal don't have a proper number 9. Liverpool don't have a proper number 9. They've got a Nunez and I don't even know what he is. But for me, Chelsea needs a striker. Chelsea have always had a proper striker. The good Chelsea's have had a proper striker. I think we need a big boy centre forward that, Jackson can deputise for or play with, and a goalkeeper. Whether that's an Osimhen, I don't know, Victor Gyökeres is the answer, whether he's that character, but I do feel like we need a striker. Anyway, I wanted to speak about that today because I was thinking about it a lot earlier and I was like, yeah, good opportunity to talk about it on the channel. So I put it out to you guys. Please let me know what you think. Comment down below the players that you think we need. Do you agree with me? Of course, it's worth mentioning Nkunku as well. I did mention he can play in that number 10, but maybe he could play as a striker in the Premier League quite successfully. But Nkunku's great value is he's versatile. You can play him anywhere. Just put him in and you get quality finishing. So let me know what you think. Comment down below. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your continued support. And I hope to see you back here very soon. Peace.